Hello, hello. Welcome to Offline Daze. It's the podcast where we remember a simpler time when your biggest workplace problem was when your boss would just walk into your office instead of your boss sending you a Slack message at 9:47 p.m. that says, "Quick question." So today we're talking about my favorite four-letter word, work. Coley, what do you think about that?
Oh, work. I hate work. But hey, do you just what curiosity? Do you have those TPS reports for me? I don't
oh,
know
oh.
if you have those or
T-
not.
TPS
But I'm gonna.
reports.
Hmm.
Let me
Yeah,
let me but
you did them
now that you
wrong.
mention
Okay.
the TPS reports, Office Space, you know, basically accidentally predicted the future of work better than anybody. When Office Space came out in 1999, we thought it was just a satire. We watched Peter sitting in that light gray cubicle, staring at his computer, having eight different bosses ask him about the same TPS report. And then we thought, that's ridiculous. No workplace could be actually this soul sucking. Turns out Mike Judge wasn't making a comedy, he was making a fucking warning.
Documentary. That's two that he's hit. Just FYI.
Yeah, well, you haven't really worked in an have you worked in an office, or have you just
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I
so
worked in the office in the early days.
so working in an office nowadays is like, okay, we're transitioning to Salaria, but payroll is still in Bullfrog. Did you see my Newscock post? Submit your time card on Fireplace, then jizz me on Smackdog. Do not upload the crackers without the Yammer approval. That's
Did you say jizz me on smack face?
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's I mean, and the genius, like circling back to Office Space, is that Peter's biggest problem was basically, I hate having to go into this office every day. That's it, right? Imagine having that problem today. Now your office follows you home. Back then, when you left work, you were done. You could physically leave the building and your job couldn't reach you, you know? If there was a quick question, there was a fucking landline. If your boss called your house at night, your whole family gathered around the phone like it was a hostage negotiation.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things when you think about it is like, I think that's why a lot of companies are trying to go back to in person because people are realizing that in in a real work office, you probably only did about 15 minutes of actual work, and the rest of it was just bullshit. A
Right.
lot of how's your daughter? How was the dance recital?
Mm-hmm.
A
Show
lot
me a
of water
picture.
cooler talk.
A lot of water cooler talk. And I feel like I was, in my earlier days, I was at an office for most of the time. And I feel the same way. It was, you were doing work, but you were taking many a coffee breaks. A lot of people took smoke breaks. Um, and the camaraderie was there though, at the workplace, because you could just hate work together from one location.
That's true. Also, I wanted to do a small rant on smoke breaks. I wanted to take a 10-minute break every hour so that I could go just, not smoke, but just take a 10-minute break. That's all I wanted.
And that was that a tough? Did they approve that, or was that something that
No, they only approve smokers.
maybe that's a sign that we should start smoking, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, exactly.
well, the funny part is when they're going to come out with research like 10 years from now that vaping is like a million times worse than smoking cigarettes, and all the people that thought they're being healthier. They're gonna be like, nope.
Oh yeah. Well, everything's gonna kill us regardless. So
Yeah. Well, imagine telling a 1989 office worker that one day you'll carry the entire office in your pocket and you'll somehow still complain that you're too busy.
yeah, yeah. That's it's crazy that um, I mean, we had full computers. I remember having like four monitors when I was working in a cubicle, and I had like email on one, and I had like, and I mean, this isn't even in the 80s and 90s, but like this is you know late 2000s,
Mm-hmm.
and you just had giant monitors everywhere, and now you can do everything from this. It's crazy.
Yeah. Um, and it's, back then it was like, I have to work late. Now the whole concept is I have 47 unread emails, 19 Slack messages, 3 Teams notifications, and someone just tagged me in a Google Doc. Where is the bridge to jump off of?
See,
You
in
know?
that case, you just need to go get a beer.
Yeah. Well, the funny part is technology was supposed to make work easier, and that doesn't
Yeah.
seem to be the case, right? So how is that? How does that play out?
It, yeah, it just made it. What did it do? It just made us work more. And it doesn't matter what your job is. Like you're always going to be connected. Like you might, even if you're a teacher, you can check your email on a Saturday afternoon. If you're, a stockbroker, you can buy things and sell things on a Sunday night. Uh, like,
Yeah,
I mean, I know it's not gonna open up until Monday, but you can do everything, you know, and you like you're just constantly connected. And I see it. Like I have a lawyer buddy who was making phone calls on the golf course, right? I mean, like so. Here we're trying to enjoy this fun golf experience, and you see someone texting on their phone or replying to an email, or it's like, oh, we are way too connected.
exactly. Exactly. I mean, you have to actually ask yourself the question, did technology actually make work easier, or did it just allow companies to give us 400% more work?
Well, yeah, well, like in a when you think about 80s and 90s, the typical job was 40 hours a week, maybe 50 hours a week if you worked a little bit of overtime. And now
Sure.
it's like you work 40 hours a week, plus you might answer an email or two in the evenings, and then you might make a phone call on a Saturday morning, and so it's like these companies get 40 hours a week, but they really get a 60-hour work week from the employer.
Exactly. Exactly. And you have PTO days, but you really have time to use them, right?
Well, and that's that I think that there's a big generation gap between us and Gen Z and Gen Alpha when it starts to come, because I think that the Gen Z people, they use their PTO all the time. They don't care. You and I, we care because we feel like if we leave for X amount of time, uh, we're gonna have so much more work that we have to do, and that's not healthy either. Like there's got to
No.
be a balance between the two.
Yeah, so it's like, how are you really supposed to take a vacation or take time off just knowing in the back of your mind that shit is going to be piling up so much, so you can't even really enjoy it, because that is literally all you're thinking about while you're taking time off is, what is this mountain of shit that I'm going to have to deal with when I come back?
Yeah, right. What shit show is happening while I'm gone? Right, like I've been lucky that I've changed my mindset with like, yeah, it's gonna be a shit show at work, but I am not gonna care right now because I'm away, and I don't. Man, and teaching's a little different because it's like, as long as the kids are safe and everything, it's like okay, you have a substitute teacher and he might be showing a movie. Okay, great. So they didn't learn one day. I'll be back the next.
Yep. And that's an interesting segment you mentioned with Gen Z, right? So the previous generations were basically told, find a job, keep your head down, be grateful. And Gen Z is kind of, I feel like, increasingly asking, why would I organize my entire life around a company? And millennials are like, I've had 14 jobs in 12 years, right? In Gen Z, yeah, and that's the thing. It's like all the job hopping. So I'm in tech, right? I've been in tech sales for 15 plus years, and it's crazy how short people's stints are in jobs these days. And a lot of that is, I feel like, propelled by venture capital. When companies infuse a lot of money and are unable to return those expectations, it all just like filters down to the employee to get kind of overworked and burn out, right? In Gen Z, they might have 3 different income streams and no one knows where they actually work. So they're doing like odds and ends, and they're doing, they're kind of piecemealing it together a little bit to fit their lives. And maybe in their mind, the end all be all is not the dollar, right? It's just how is my work life balance?
Yeah. Like, I think it's again that fine line of, okay, if I don't necessarily care about work right now, and I'm doing whatever I can to get the ends meet, to pay my rent, to pay my mortgage, whatever it might be, great. What happens when I'm 72 years old, right? So like living in the moment is, and that's where our generation changes a little bit, because it's like, have a 401k, make sure you're saving, you have a little bit of a savings account. Like that's where everybody like differed. Like that's where our parents, and it makes sense, because the boomer generation, their parents were part of the Great Depression. So it's like save as much as you can.
Sure.
And then you bring that to your kids, and so you're like, you need to go to college, you need to save. And then when you turn 62 or 65 now, I think it is, you'll have a nice nest egg, and you'll be able to go do things that you want to do. And you're like, okay, that's great. But also, like, what if I don't make it to 65, right?
Exactly. I mean, what cracks me up is the boomers mentality of the whole, work until you're 70 years old and enjoy the next 2.5 years of your life until you start getting debilitating illnesses and things, and you're in one of those hover around scooters, like visiting the Grand Canyon. You're like, woo, look at this. So I feel like for decades, the 9 to 5 was just considered normal. So I think Gen Z looks at it as an outdated operating system. Why does work have to happen specifically between 9 and 5?
Right.
Why does productivity stop at 5? Why does everyone have to be online at the exact time? If I finish my work at 2:30, am I supposed to stare at Excel sheets until 5?
Yes. You have to pretend like you're working for the next hour and a half.
I'm still waiting. For me, I'm just waiting for universal basic income to hit so I can just paint by the river.
There you go. Are you going to live in a van?
Live in a van. I've started to see a lot more of that these days. Is people living in vans. And another, this is kind of funny. I'm trying to make this into a joke bit, but it's like the indicators the economy isn't doing well. I feel like they need to throw like people that buy metal detectors. I feel like the metal detector sales have gone up. People are like looking for like buried gold as like a last resort.
You get to find Grandpa's gold tooth that fell out of his. And,
yeah.
You get to find 50 cents, and maybe a lost treasure that a pirate buried there 1,000 years ago.
It's crazy, and you know, part of this you have to look at how cost of living has changed the entire work equation, right? People didn't just suddenly become lazy. I think the math just got weird. You know, your
Yeah,
grandparents could work one job, buy a house, raise kids, and retire. Today, someone can work 40 plus hours and still be Googling how much rice can I make with $4.17.
yeah. I mean, well, and if you think about it, if you have to work multiple jobs, like you're gonna get tired, and it's gonna look like there are gonna be times that you're gonna look lazy, and it's like, nope, I'm recharging, right? Like I just worked a 40-hour normal work week, plus I walked 6 dogs. Like I'm exhausted.
And it's like, you know, part of it is like the digital exhaust, right? So you're on the computer all day, and then when you get off work, you try to unplug, but your phone's beeping and you're scrolling, and it's an endless cycle. And to piggyback on that, it's almost like the American dream got a subscription model, right? Rent, car payment, phone, streaming, internet, insurance, student loans, groceries. Somehow you're paying $17 a month for an app you forgot that you downloaded.
Yeah, yeah. I think the hardest thing about all of it is like it's just get because this American dream got painted. You get a white picket fence, and one of you has to work, and one of you stays home and hangs with the kids, and that's not the case because and it's mentally exhausting now because you're talking about that's where I was my head was going where
Yeah,
it's like people don't realize how much mental capacity is physically exhausting. Like uh,
true.
getting thousands of questions and reading hundreds of emails, that's exhausting.
It is. It is. And it's just, it's, you can just have a meltdown, right? You know, because of all that. And I think some people are better equipped to deal with it. And those are the people that are like potentially thriving. But then there's a subset of us that maybe aren't able to deal with that digital overload as much. And then, you know, let's talk about the housing problem. You know, a huge psychological shift happens when working harder doesn't seem to bring the ownership of a house any closer. I mean, I've got little shithole 3 bedroom houses in my neighborhood here that, you know, would cost like $80,000 in Kansas that are like $800,000 here.
Yeah, and and again, it's you like when you if you compared the front range of Denver to Kansas, there's not a lot that's different. It's pretty flat. There's not a lot around. The only thing that's different is the proximity to the foothills and the mountains, and that's what increase like that's insane.
Yeah, and I'm sure you could compare like maybe living in Parker or Aurora compared to like the west kind of Denver. That's a little more, I guess, visually appealing, a little nicer. But still, you go to Aurora or, you know, Kansas, Denver, and you're still not getting Kansas prices.
Yeah, seriously. You got to go live in Colby, Kansas, which is about 3 hours east of Denver, maybe 4 hours east of Denver.
Yeah, and you know, I think it's and you know, work is, you know, and then you see like the Gen Z, you know, they're looking at work differently. But you know, where will work be in 10 years? You know, is your boss going to be an AI agent? I mean, are you going to be interviewing with an AI agent? um
maybe you will have a bunch of AI people working for you. Then you
That
don't have to
that
do
would
anything.
that would be ideal. That would be, and maybe it'll be a shorter work week. Like, what do you foresee
They
with
are
like in
trying
the
to.
in the teaching profession, right? I mean, I'm sure you've seen some changes. Like, I wonder if it'll ever get to the point where they just replace teachers with robots.
I mean, I could have an entire 15 episode podcast on teaching and my views on it, and I think
Sure.
there'd be a lot of teachers that would not like the way that I think. But you talk about the shorter work week, and like there's a school district in Brighton that does a 4 day school day. They do a 4 day work school day, and so they turn all their lights off on Mondays, so no one is allowed in the buildings. That's where they're saving their money because they have one, and then they end up going to school like an hour longer each day, and it ends up being like a 40 hour um, school day or school week. It's not, no, they're not 40 hours. They're only like 7 hours a day, but still, like it ends up working out, and I don't know. There's hit and miss between it. Bernie Sanders is trying to get everybody to do a 32-hour work week with a 40-hour paycheck.
Yeah, and I'm okay
I
with
don't
that.
know.
And he's also
I think
go ahead.
I think Bernie Sanders, has the right idea. I don't necessarily. I'm not a big Bernie Sanders fan in general, but like I think that the idea of you can get, because I used to work 4 10s, and God, I loved it so much. Like I know that it seemed like so much more, but in reality, it wasn't. It was 2 hours on each end of the day. So yeah, I was working instead of an 8 hour day or a 9 hour day, I was working a 10 hour day, but I had a 3 day weekend every weekend, and it was awesome.
And I think that's, shortening because maybe it's just the 5 day week is a bit antiquated, right? Um, and people need more time to people need more time to recharge because of all this digital overload that we're getting. But I think that
Yeah,
it's easy for the corporate overlords to just not give a shit, right? And just continue to just cycle through people, but they don't want to lose control, right? I feel like AI to them, it presents an opportunity to get more done with less. So that means they can reduce their staffs, and but at the end of the day, until it really becomes beneficial, they're using it to make one person do like two or three people's jobs, um, which isn't fair. Um, and also,
do,
I like
do you
the
know why the
what's that?
what do you like? Oh,
Sorry,
I was gonna say, do you know why the 5 day work week exists?
no, why?
So it was because people were working too much. Actually, that people
Hmm.
were working like 10 to 16 hour days, 6 7 days a week. So like it's almost been like a pendulum swing when you think about it. So it was like in the early 19th century, uh, people were working like crazy hours, like we do right now, and then uh, so in 1938, it was called the Fair Labor Standards Act.
Mm-hmm.
And so that created the 40-hour week, 5 days a week. And people had to, it was a law. Like people had to abide by it if they were going to hire people. And then that's why they could get fair wages. And then the other thing is also there multiple religions across the board kind of go with it, because a lot of religions deal with Sunday as the day or Saturday as the day. And so it's like they didn't want people working on the holy days that they wanted. So then they really started working on those 5 days, those main 5 days. So that's why the 5 day work week exists. And if you think about it uh, with different ideas of how today's world is, we don't need a 5-day work week. We like you can still use Sunday as a holy day. You can still use Saturday as a holy day, and you can still maybe do 2 hours of work to still get your 40 hours. Like it doesn't have to be 8 consecutive hours in a row.
Yeah, very true. And that's interesting kind of how it started. But as we talked about, it could be an antiquated system here and, time for updates. But again, this all threatens the control of the corporate, overlords that want to kind of keep people boxed into that way of life. I mean,
yeah.
I
Sorry,
just
my
Googled,
computer's about to die.
all good.
Keep going. What'd you
I
Google?
just Googled something. I just Googled bartending jobs in the Caribbean. That's where my head is.
You know what I Googled? You know what I Googled the other day? Is I asked, or I got an email from a cruise company that was looking for comedians, and you go and you make like $1,500 to $2,500 a week. You got to have 45 minutes, a solid 45 minutes. But you do one show a night.
A 45-minute set
for like a week or two. Yeah. And then for like a week or two, you are just on the cruise. And I was like, man, that's what I'm going to do when I retire. Like, I'm going to go be a comedian on a cruise ship and just go to different places.
Yes. Yes. Oh, and it's funny you mentioned that because I was actually thinking about that. But maybe you're looking at the more established cruise ships, but maybe I start off on the more rinkety dink cruise ships that only need a 20-minute set.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. You know what? I hear Deadliest Catch is hiring comedians. Maybe we go do that, and we'll do our set while water is crashing down on us.
Oh,
It'll
yeah.
be freezing cold.
Oh, that would be a good like reality show. Coley and Ryan just on a cruise ship chasing their comedy dreams into the sunset.
I like that you're like on a cruise ship. we're gonna be on we're gonna be on what was the guy in Jaws? I can't think of his name right now. get on his boat and start telling jokes, and then he's like, all right, shh, the shark's coming.
Another thing we have to kind of ask ourselves.
Shark.
Yeah, you're like, what? Another thing we kind of have to ask ourselves philosophically is, speaking of jobs, did capitalism stop working, or did we just get bad at capitalism, or is it time for some sort of hybrid model of capitalism?
I don't think capitalism ever stops working. I think that's it doesn't matter what profession you are. You always want to try to get ahead, and you always want to try to make as much money as you possibly can. I do think that there are people out there who are like, money isn't as important to me as experiencing life. And so I get that. But like, I guarantee you, if you ask those same people and you'd be like, hey, here's $1,000, put it into the stock market, see what happens, and then wait 10 years and then see what you can do on your day-to-day life. Right. And they'd be like, yeah, absolutely. I'm going to do that.
But how does capitalism work 10 years from now when potentially 25% of jobs just disappear because of AI? So that would be my question to you.
Well, I think capitalism will work with the CEOs. That's where it'll work, because that's, when you think about it, that's where they're going right now. If I can save money by having AI instead of paying health insurance, I'm going to do that. So I'm going to save money that way, and it's going to bring me more money into my pocket, right?
But that's not helping everyone. That's just helping the uber rich.
No, it never helps anybody. It only helps the uber rich, right?
Well, that's why we
Like
have to figure. That's why we have to figure. Because we were told go to school, get a job, buy a house, have a family, retire. Now it's go to school, get a job, get a second job, start a side hustle, monetize your hobbies, die with 47 unread Slack messages.
yeah, yeah, that's what we do now. I don't know. I don't know what. I mean, unless you go, I mean, we don't need to talk politics, obviously, but like unless you go socialism. But again, like think about if that was you, and even I'm not talking making billions of dollars, but even if you made some sort of money in the stock market, and then they're like, guess what? All that money you just made, that's gonna be spread out for all of us. And you're like,
Sure.
okay, but that was my hard earned money that I put into there. And I mean, I know I didn't necessarily earn that money. I got lucky with the stock market, but it's like where do you find that line, right?
So another idea coming from Bernie Sanders and some other people are public ownership kind of in AI, right? So proposals
Mm-hmm.
suggest setting up an American AI sovereign wealth fund to distribute economic upsides. Um, so discussions involve private labs potentially contributing a small percentage of equity to public benefit funds. So when all these companies start to make money hand over fist with AI, um, that should a percentage of that should go back to the public, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be great if yeah, and like again, if a company is saving X amount on not paying health insurance with certain things with AI, um, yeah, that absolutely makes sense in most people middle class eyes, right? Does it make sense if you're the CEO, right?
But I don't give a fuck about the CEO. That's the thing. I don't. I feel
I
like
know. I don't either.
these CEOs are making too much damn money now, and I'm not a
Yeah,
socialist.
I agree.
I'm not a socialist. I know that
No,
people kind of like. I'm looking in between capitalism and socialism. For example, how could you make a company like Norway, or a country like Norway, Sweden? Some of these Nordic companies they aren't socialists, but they're not capitalists. They have kind of a hybrid model
right.
there. Um,
Yeah, I think the idea, and I am 100% on board with you, Ryan. I just think that there are too many CEOs who are capitalists that are gonna. It's gonna be almost impossible to drive something like that, right?
but I don't I'll push back a little bit. Once for example, 5 years from now, if we just have like 25% unemployment for some reason, and then people aren't able to make money, support their families, then you're going to start to see a solid amount of civil unrest that leads to violence, that leads to other things. So unless there are um, safety nets built in as this starts to explode quickly, there could be problems
Yeah,
on the.
absolutely. I think that it's gonna be chaos if something doesn't happen shortly. Like it is. It's. I mean, that's human nature. If I can't afford bread, I'm gonna do whatever it takes to get that bread, regardless of rules.
You mean if you just can't, you can afford whole wheat, but you really want sourdough, so you're gonna walk in there with like an Uzi.
No, I'm gonna buy Wonder Bread, like real bread.
I mean,
uh,
the way I look at it is
yeah, I think
we're at a
you're
breaking
right.
point. We're at a breaking point now, and a lot of people don't see it because we're at such the tip of the iceberg of what AI can do, how jobs are changing, who's still holding on to the power, all those things. So I think a lot of people are just uncertain now with just cause.
Yeah, And I think a lot of it is not necessarily being educated about it. You want to make sure that you know you're reading about this stuff, and and I do think you're right. It's the tip of the iceberg. Like people see this, and there's this problem that nobody sees, or only a few people see.
Well, it's hard for the average American, the working class, which is almost they're pushing them down. It's pushing them down to like the lower tiers. So it's hard for them to
Yep.
keep their eyes on the prize because they're just trying to make ends meet. Especially, you know, you have a child, people that have children, it's not easy to quite as easy to raise children or afford children these days. So that's the disconnect is that the people that it affects the most don't have the time to advocate for themselves.
Yeah. Well, in that aspect, what's happening is the middle class is going away. So you either have to choose: do you want to be really poor? Do you want to be poor? Like, do you want to be a rich poor person, or do you want to be a poor rich person?
And that's something I've thought about too. I don't have kids and I don't plan on having kids. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, I've been in this tech world for many years making good money, but seemingly unhappy. Would I be happier making a lot less money, not being as stressed out? And I think because it's the age of consumerism that we live in right now, where you're constantly getting ads to buy things and comparing on social media, it's like the only way to kind of go against the grain of keeping up with the Joneses is just not playing that game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I did. I didn't want. I was in the corporate world forever, and I was like, "This is soul sucking. I need to do something that's not going to be soul sucking."
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, again, check out my other podcast. Not really, but check out my
Right.
other rants on teaching.
Oh, oh, and I love getting in the boomer. I got plenty of boomer rants, right? Because I think the problem with the boomers is they just
Yeah, right.
they do not understand how technology has kind of fried people's brains and changed the work landscape. And they're holding on to
Yeah, because they're not on it.
no, they're on the tail end of their careers now, and we're having to just sit here and deal with the world that they left us after they sucked the economy dry with their pensions and all the stuff that
Yeah,
all the
yeah.
stuff that set them up pretty, and now they're looking at us like we're just lazy POSs that don't want to work, and kids that are graduating
Which
college
sucks.
now cannot even it's taken them years to even find jobs because AI is replacing everything.
Yeah.
So I'll tell those we need to like get a boomer on here to just have like a nice argumentative rant, you know, about like a battle royale.
All right. Here's what we'll do. We'll find a boomer. I'll get you guys, and then I'll just kind of be a mediator.
Ooh, I like that idea. I like that idea. And I'll just destroy this person.
I'll probably take more of your side. I was gonna say I was gonna probably take more of your side. I'm probably not a great mediator. There's a lot of things that you and I totally agree on when it comes to this stuff.
I agree. Yeah, yeah. I think this to kind of close the loop. It's technology has exploded so much, and then the productivity side, how much more they want us to produce and on the product. It's like we're competing with AI. So we've gotten technology that has made our lives more fragmented because we're having to log into these different platforms, do this, and maybe we just aren't at the point yet where it's making jobs easier, and it's all getting kind of shoved down the worker's throat now. So it's kind of say we're in a transitional between a rock and a hard place, finding jobs, being out of jobs. It's and it seems like it's not getting any better, but I think we'll just have to hope that there's some policies in place and there are some things that happen in the future that turn the table. If you get my drift.
That's all I'm hoping for. I get it. That's all I'm hoping for. Just a tiny little bit of a relief to help us, and maybe someone is going to figure out AI can make that relief or something like that. I don't know. Who
Well,
knows, right?
it'd be like AI
I guess we're just
eventually
going to
just being
keep
able
living
to.
that life.
It'd be like AI eventually being able to cure cancer like this, or cure diseases, or
Right.
I think we're just not at the point yet where we're seeing all these benefits, and hopefully I
Right.
die before that happens. Just kidding.
Yeah.
I'd love to just not
Yeah.
be able to reap any of the
I agree.
benefits. Oh, well, this has been a
Right.
good conversation. I've enjoyed this.
I enjoyed it a lot. Yeah. Should
Yeah.
we promote ourselves though? Since even
Yeah.
though we were having a conversation, we should do
I feel
offline.
like
We find us on the platforms of Facebook.
yeah, you do that. I feel like you're better at promoting.
Oh.
I'm shitty at it.
All right. So we're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. That's Offline Daze, DAZE, like dazed and confused. Also, don't forget, as soon as we hit 1,000 Facebook followers, we have 200 right now. We get 1,000 Facebook followers. We will have a drawing for your Blockbuster, 2 drawings actually, for your Blockbuster giveaway that you can pay your Blockbuster late fees. But Ryan says that you have to pay your late fees. You can't just buy whatever you
No,
want.
you can't just buy some useless Chinese made doll on Amazon. You have to pay back your Blockbuster fees. So that's, and then don't forget about the polo contest. So we're going to be launching a contest soon where you can
Polo
win.
contest, yeah.
You can win. We've partnered with a cool golf brand. You can win a flamingo polo. And we're going to post. I'm going to post a video about that probably Monday, talking about it. But it's essentially
Nice.
you're gonna put in the comments what irritates you most about technology, and whatever we find the funniest, we're gonna ship someone that fresh new polo. Let me grab it over here. I'm gonna grab it over here. It is in the plastic bag. You can see these.
It's crisp.
It's crisp.
Still.
The flamingo polo on a skateboard. How often do you get to see a flamingo polo on a skateboard? So I think that's cool. And
I mean, I wore my flamingo shirt.
I love it. And also, where can we find you next performing? We're both stand-up comedians. So is there any shows on the docket for you, sir?
I had a show on August 30th in Louisville.
Okay.
And that's a all teacher comedians are doing that show. So it's at the Louisville Underground. That's the first time I've ever performed there, so I'm excited.
That is exciting, and we do have a standing.
And you got something coming up too.
Yep. So the 26th of September. Let me find out exactly where it is again. The 26th of September, I will be performing it's in Colorado Springs. Let's see here. Go to my messages. Just bear with me, folks. This is but it's going to be an interesting kind of yeah, right. So popular. So here's the idea. This will be it's an event for mental health, which I support in Colorado Springs, and it's currently bringing up the name of the venue. Strength in Comedy at Wackadoo Brewing, Colorado Springs, Saturday, September 26th, 7 to 10 p.m. And it's going to be an interesting format. What is it? It's kind of like some improv. They're doing some different stuff now where you like pick a topic out of a hat and kind of do some improv fun comedy that way. So I don't know what the hell I'm getting myself into, but there it goes.
Nice.
All right.
Nice.
Well, that's exciting.
Hopefully you're just not getting smacked by a...
Yeah, right?
All right. Well, clearly, I think it's a time to wrap it up, right?
It is time to wrap it up, but thanks everyone for the time and our nice conversation about work and how it's changed pre-internet now. And we'll post some clips on social media when we release this, so people can chime in on their own thoughts of this topic.
100%.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Bye, everybody.